Imagine in your neighborhood, there was a little neighborhood store, and you just lived 3 blocks away. That was my neighborhood. I grew up in the 50s. I'm part of the baby boomers, and we had grocery stores in our neighborhood, and they would have the basics. They would have the milk, and they would have the cheese, and they would have the bread. And so my mother would often send me to that store and have me pick up an essential. But then, you know what she would do? She would give me 5 pennies. 5 pennies. I went even faster to the neighborhood grocery store. I had the money for the essentials, and I had 5 pennies. So I would pick up the milk and the eggs, and I would set it on the counter. And right next to the counter, there was a bin, and it was full of candy. And every piece of candy cost 1 penny. My mother had given me 5, and what that meant is that I could get 5 pieces of my favorite candy. There was a Mary Jane's, there was a Tootsie Roll, there was those cinnamon squares, there was Bazooka bubble gum, and then there was my favorite, a candy cigarette. Well, the clerk would come with this small bag, and the 5 pieces of candy seemed to fill it up. And so I would take things home, and I couldn't wait to be able to get into the little bag and begin to eat the candy. Well, that's a wonderful memory I have from my childhood. Let's fast forward to when I was 30 years old. It was Christmas time, and the Salvation Army were hiring new staff to be able to help with the Christmas rush. And I got a job there. One of my jobs was to work in the office. Now, let me tell you about the office workers. We got to stay inside and be warm. And then there were volunteers who put Santa suits on. They carried bells and red kettles, and they would go to grocery stores and other businesses in popular areas, and they would ring the bell. All the money that they picked up would go to help our local area. Salvation Army would have a goal for our area to help the poor at Christmas time. There were people who were homeless. There were people who would have no gifts to be able to get their children, and people who would not be able to put a full Christmas dinner together. That's where the Salvation Army comes in. And they would provide the things that poor people would not have. On Christmas Day, people who were homeless needed to be able to go someplace to eat. There were long tables, and volunteers would help out, and families would come help serve people a meal with all the works. It was wonderful. Think about a time you helped participate in something that would help your community. What was it like to join with a group and help the poor, the needy, help someone who has had their electricity turned off? I had just finished writing my talk to give on YouTube, and I was so excited to go into the living room and tell my husband. So I told him, I'm going to tell the Pennies story about the Salvation Army. And he looked at me and he said, Precious, did you know the U.S. Mint is going to be discontinuing the penny? I felt devastated. I had not heard about that. It was like a jab. I thought, you cannot discontinue the penny. I was so in despair. One of my jobs at the Salvation Army was to help count the coins. I was assigned to the penny table. Well, there were mounds of pennies. There were red little sleeves. We would take 50 pennies and put them in the red sleeve. And we would do one after another. I would look at my hands, and they would be green, and they would ache. When the last penny was put in the red sleeve. I looked at that mound. Something came over me. I thought, look at all these little tiny pennies, and put together, they're going to make a huge difference to a little girl, to a family, to a little boy, to a homeless person, to someone who doesn't have anything. It reminded me of a story in the Bible, a little boy who came with loaves and fishes. He gave them to Jesus. Jesus blessed the small lunch that the boy gave him. It multiplied. It fed 5,000 people. I thought, I'm going to be thrilled to see how the needs are going to be met. What an honor to work for the Salvation Army that Christmas. I have 3 things to wrap up. First of all, pennies matter. Sometimes we think the small things that we do don't make a difference. A small little act of kindness, that smile, some way that you help someone across the street. You make up a plate of cookies, Christmas cookies, and you deliver them to your neighbor. It brings them joy. A small little gift is enough. You are enough. Sometimes what you offer is someone's answer to prayer. And that's what I thought about as we served the meals and the gifts. I thought how many people had prayed for toys for their children, for a wonderful meal, for utilities to be turned back on, for a place to stay. This could be someone's answer to prayer. And the third thing I would like to highlight is that there's something wonderful when we gather to work together to help someone. There's joy. It's wonderful. There's an energy when we gather with joy to the world as we helped people. My name is Precious. I'm a counselor. If this has resonated with you, if you've been encouraged by this, would you like, subscribe, and comment? Let me know something that you have done that has blessed you and encouraged you, and what has happened with you just at a time when you had a need. Who came along and what did they bring to bless you? And if there is someone that you think would benefit from this, would you share it? The penny may be forever discontinued, but what will never go out is the act of kindness. God used small things to multiply and meet needs. So if you go to the grocery store and you hear the familiar bell reach into your coin purse, put it in the red kettle. Have a wonderful Christmas.